So we are reading Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan. We are on chapter 19, page number 170 of the book and page number 186 of the PDF.
Exercises to receive spiritual guidance. Sit in a meditative position with your back straight, but with a slight hollow in the small of your back. You may sit in a chair, using the back of the chair to rest on, or you may prefer the yoga position of sitting on a pillow on the floor with your legs crossed. Be sure it is a comfortable position for you. If you are kinesthetic, close your eyes and simply follow your breath as it flows into and out of your body. Then, now and then, you may want to repeat a reminder to yourself, following breath to center. With your mind's eye, follow your breath into your body and all the way to your center. Your senses may become heightened, and you may want to start following the energy flow throughout your body.
So this is one of the classic things, right? Following your breath. This is also what we are doing in heart math with heart focused breathing. And it really manages to cool the body down if done properly, right? And take you into different states of consciousness also. So most of the time, what is happening with us is that we are not even aware that we are breathing. So basically, if we can start breathing with awareness, a shift automatically starts taking place.
2. If you are a visual type, imagine a golden tube up and down your spine where the main power current of the aura is. Visualize a white golden ball above your head. As you calmly breathe, the ball slowly sinks down through the tube and into the central part of your body to the solar plexus. Then watch the golden ball grow like a sun inside your solar plexus. You may want to continue the growth of the golden ball on the solar plexus. Allow it to first fill your body with golden light. Then let it fill your auric field with golden light. Continue the expansion to fill the room you are in. If you are meditating in a circle of people, see their golden balls expand to create a golden ring, filling the room. Let it expand, growing larger than the room, to the size building you are in, the area outside the building, the town or city, the state, the country, the continent, the earth, and beyond. Do this slowly. Move your consciousness to expand the golden ball of light out to the moon and stars. Fill the universe with bright golden light. See yourself as part of that universe and as one with it, and therefore one with God.
So what is happening here, right? The spine is the center of our body system. So when we start activating the spine, automatically energy starts to grow. This is something that is done in Kundalini also. They say that the Kundalini moves up the spine where all the nadis are also there, right? Plus we have all the chakras. So each of the chakras are basically plexes where the energy fields or the lines of radiation which are making the auric field stand up are crisscrossing. So each of them become a very powerful center. So when we are imagining that we are getting filled with the ball expanding, it's very much how the concept of the reball also is, right? Now, your energy is actually going into infinity. It's only that we are not able to perceive it in that way. So the more we can expand our state, right? The more we are shifting to wholeness, the more we are shifting into oneness. And let me tell you, we can actually create a reball which can encompass a full building. We can create a reball to cover the whole country. We have seen how reballs have actually affected cyclones also, where the cyclonic winds actually shift when you put a reball on the whole city. That's what we experienced in 3 or 4 cases, right? So again, this is an expansion of that energy field which can permeate everything around us.
Now keep the light just as bright and bring it back in, step by step, just as you sent it out. Fill your being with all that light and knowledge of the universe. Be sure to do this slowly, going step by step back in. Feel the tremendous charge your auric field has now. You have also brought back into your field the knowledge that you are one with the Creator.
So again, the reball can be used as a means of communication, as a means of garnering information also, right? So in the same way, when we want to touch something, we want to actually feel what is happening somewhere else. We want to feel what is the state of mind and state of consciousness or being of another person. We can actually expand our reball. We can expand this auric field and actually touch the field of that other person for energy exchange to take place and to get information. We can actually do it, right? So this process, when you're using the reball, or over here, as they're saying, the golden light, which is filling your auric field, a lot can be actually done and achieved with that. We've been just using the reball for healing, etc. But there are so many other uses that we can make for the reball.
If you are an auditory type, you may simply want to use a mantra for the entire meditation. You may want to use a sacred name as the mantra, such as Om, Satnam, Jesus, or Be Still and Know That I Am God. Om, you may want to sound a note. I find that on some days it takes more effort to center myself, so I may use a combination of the above meditations to get my mind free of its chatter. On another day, all I need is a simple mantra.
So again, we are constantly wavering, right? Everything is in a wave form. So some days we are much higher in energy, so we can go into these states quicker. Some days we are lower, so we need to build our energy up. Again, there is no right way and wrong way in my view. Anything that works, use it, right? So it may be a combination of various tools that you have. Of course, we get a lot of tools in all the programs that we are conducting. There are so many other methods of doing stuff, right? So what I would say is integrate and then figure out for yourself what works for you best at a particular point in time and space, and then simply use it.
Now that 4 more meditations and practices for getting into that quiet, self-accepting state and to increase your sensitivity, I highly recommend the exercises in the book Voluntary Controls by Jack Schwartz. This book contains a whole series of such exercises geared to the Western mind and is very effective. Now that you are centered and your mind is quiet, you are ready to sit for spiritual guidance.
So spiritual guidance can only come, a download can only happen when the chatter of the mind is stopped, right? What I find is that the hemisync process, all the Monroe programs, they really help in stilling your mind. So if you're going into F10, if you're going into F12, 15, 21, the stilling of the mind immediately takes place, right? And it becomes very easy to start getting downloads. This has been an experience through and through. So you can use these techniques, or you can simply go into one of the higher focus levels.
Channeling personal spiritual teachers for guidance. Each person has several guides who stay with him and guide him throughout many lifetimes.
So now we have a partnership with our spirit guides, right? They're there and they know us. It's very much like, in the villages, they used to have these doctors who had actually healed and worked with 4 generations, 5 generations, right? They knew the history. They knew what the person is going through. So we also have these guides and masters and helping spirits who are there with us throughout. Again, she's saying lifetimes here, but everything is happening at the same time. When we go into expanded states where time and space cease to exist in the way that we are working with them. But yes, considering from our state of consciousness, the earth life system that we are experiencing, Yeah, these guides are there with us through many lifetimes.
In addition, one has teacher guides who stay during times of specific learning and are chosen because of that specific learning. For example, if you are learning to be an artist, you are bound to have a few artist type guides around for inspiration. In whatever kind of creative work you are involved in, I am sure you are inspired by guides who are connected to that type of work in the spirit world, where the forms are more perfect and beautiful than we are able to manifest on the earth plane.
So again, in the excursion workshop, etc., we talk about the small guy and the big guy. Whatever initiative you actually take, at the end of the day, it's always being inspired by the big guy, where we are connected to our guides, our teachers, our masters, right? Who are putting in the seed for us to get inspired, which then comes as, that I did it. If the ego starts kicking in, then you will think that I did it, right? But the inspiration is actually coming from the big guy from below, right? So these teachers and masters are there always with us. They're keeping on coming and going, supporting us in our growth. When we look at going into higher states of consciousness, what has been found is that the guys up there are all compassionate. They all love. They're always operating out of love. So they're always wanting to support you. But when we operate out of ego, you say that I will do it, then they back off because again, they're compassionate. If you are saying that I want to do it, then they are not going to support you in what you're doing. That's why allowing and being open to receiving support starts to become extremely important when we are going into these higher states of consciousness, or we are wanting to get inspired to do something different or something new or something beautiful. Why? Because over there, when we go into those states, the inspiration of what is there is much more beautiful, much more integrate, much more happening than what we are experiencing over here. There is another thing that we actually experience when we get into Focus 27. We go to the planning center, or in Focus 27, over there, everything is planned. Okay. And they have an innovation center also where new things are being innovated. And then the ideas, if you'll see in the world, the idea to do something is happening at many places in the world at the same time. One guy says that, okay, he wins the race and becomes the inventor, but many people around the world start working on certain innovations at the same time. This is why it is coming from up there, and these people are getting inspired simultaneously. So what he's saying over here, whatever you're doing, those kind of guides and masters will come into your being, support you in that process, and then if required, they'll move on and someone else will come in. But we do have a soul group. We do have guides and masters who are there with us throughout. Okay, this is very important to understand. And the more we can connect to this guidance, the more we can connect to our guides, the better flow we will start having in our lives.
To contact your guide, simply sit in the quiet, peaceful understanding that you are one with God, that a spark of God exists in every part of your being, and that you are perfectly safe. This attitude allows you to reach a state of inner quiet that allows you to hear.
So, okay, now many times, people operate out of fear. Now, whenever we are operating out of fear, we lose our connection. We lose the flow. We start operating from the left side of the grid, and then nothing can happen. The mind chatter is there when we are operating in the past or the future. So we need to start becoming more present. We start to being more centered, more here and now, to actually start receiving the guidance. So you need to go into that state of blankness where everything is happening, but you're not doing. So again, a shift from effortfulness to effortlessness also starts happening when we start quietening the mind.
In general, when entering a lifted state for guidance, I go through the following internal experience. I feel an excitement because I sense the presence of a guide full of light and love. Then I become aware of a beam of white light above me, and I start lifting myself up into it. One might say, I go up into it with my mind's eye. My excitement diminishes as I become aware of a pink cloud of love coming down over me. I become filled with a feeling of love and security. I then feel myself being lifted into a higher state of consciousness. At this point, my body may make a few adjustments, like the pelvis curling under more to the forward position and my backbone straightening more. I may involuntarily yawn to help my throat chakra open. This is the chakra through which one hears one's guides.
Okay, so again, going into a state which will allow us to receive the guidance. Now, she's mentioning what she goes through, right? But you can create your own procedure, getting into that state of stillness, that inner harmony that is there, which will allow the guidance to come through. And of course, it is communication, and the throat is related to communication. So what she's saying is that most of the guidance comes through the throat chakra. But in my view, it can come from the Agya as well as the Sahasra or the crown chakra also.
After more lifting, I enter into a state of holy serenity. Then I will usually both hear and see the guides. Throughout the beginning of the reading, I will continue lifting. I usually have about 3 teachers that guide me. The person who has come to me for help will usually be accompanied by his guide or guides.
So we always have our guides with us, right? They're always around. If we just remember them, they will be with us. Now, the idea is to make a connection. Now, whenever we are going into these higher states, communication starts to happen. Now, of course, she is operating from a clairvoyant state where she can actually see her guides and masters. And anyone who's coming to her will also have their guides and masters. So she can see them also, right? But having said that, it doesn't mean that all of us have to see it. You can feel the presence. You can understand that, okay, they are there. Again, many times this question is asked, someone had actually posted, is seeing believing or believing seeing, right? They both work. So over here, if you're not seeing, you have to believe that they are there, right? And they will be there. Because again, we are very powerful beings. We can actually connect to anyone, anytime that we want. It's just that we have to tune into the correct frequency and that communication will start. But it takes a little bit of practice. So the more you communicate with your guidance, with your guides, the better your guidance will automatically become. Now you don't even have to, know that that guide is there. It can come as a sense of knowing that you go into that state and you feel that, okay, this is the correct thing to do. And over and over again, if you keep going into that state and you say something or you do something and you find that it works, it hits the nail on the head, then you understand that when you get that feeling and you act, then that means that guidance is correct. So you have to, it's a built muscle. You have to build that muscle to be able to connect into it. Yes, Renuji?
Bhaiya, that means it's almost like the intuition also we get could be them only telling us what it is, what
Absolutely.
we think our subconscious or whatever it is, the intuition that we get it. So it's more just being aware of that would help us to
Correct, exactly. So when you get an intuitive insight and you act on it, when you get that intuitive insight, there's a feel, there's a tasir to it, right? Okay, that okay, if I get this message and it is accompanied by this kind of a feeling that I have, and when I act on it and I find that it works, right? Now the issue over here is that we are primed to look at danger. We are primed to look for survival, right? So most of the time when the intuitive abilities start, you will be looking and focusing on danger. You will be looking and focusing on the depleting intuitions which are there. You have to rehash it and transcend, focusing your intuitive ability on the depleting stuff and shift it into the uplifting stuff. That is what I experienced in my life. Okay,
How can I do that, Bhaiya?
because you need to start becoming aware of it, right? So again, attitude of gratitude and appreciation. So if I'm getting a download of a danger, it is naturally going to put me on the left side of the grid. Now, if I can shift it and operate and look at it from the right side of the grid, then the other kind of intuitions which are good for you, okay, now go and do this at this time, or this is the right course for you, or this is the right way that you need to go. This is the right journey that you need to take. This is the person that you need to meet to be able to do this. This name will work for you. You understand? That is when that other kind of intuition starts to come, which will start becoming beneficial to you. But in the beginning, you are operating out of fear, and the intuition starts leading you down that lane. But what's the point of intuition that leads us down a depleting lane, right? We want to make it lead us in the uplifting side. Okay. But again, you have to study it, you have to observe it. That, okay, when I get an intuition and an act, what happens?
Bhaiya, is this also intuition? Like sometimes, it happens that you're leaving and you feel you've left your keys behind. And when you go and check up, it's actually you've left your
keys. So then whenever that feeling comes, and act on it. If that is a feeling and it works for you, so that is an uplifting feeling, right? Because it is working for you, that you've left your key. So observe what is the feeling when that thing comes in. For other things also, not only for leaving your keys.
No, that happened with me. So I was wondering, is that also?
Of course it is. You're being told that, yeah, you left your key, go and check.
Okay.
Right. So when you start doing it, you will start getting deeper intuitions that, okay, this is the way you do this. Make this project in this way. Make this report in this way. You see, there's a flaw in that report. So you will be able to tune in where the flaw is. All those things start happening when you start developing that muscle. Okay.
Thank you.
It is the experience of light, love, and serenity that confirms your connections to the guides. If you do not have it when trying to channel, then you are most likely not connected to your guides.
So again, feeling of love, feeling of that stillness, feeling of that serenity, right? Feeling that, okay, this is what is happening. Getting that sense of knowing, making that connection becomes very important, right? Otherwise, the ego is what is prompting you, So you're operating out of ego. You're not operating out of the big guy.
The guide will communicate in whatever form is easiest for you to receive. It will either be in a general concept, direct words, symbolic pictures, or direct pictures of happenings like past experiences or past lives.
So again, some people are kinesthetic, some people are auditory, some people are visual, some people taste things, some people smell things, some people feel things, right? So whatever your method of connecting, it is something that you got to develop for yourself. You need to focus on that thing that will happen. For example, I know that Shrimangla, when someone asks her a question and it is she's getting the right answer, she gets a whirling on the forehead, right? Like that, when I'm saying something which is hitting the nail on the head, my hair starts to stand up. So now these are indications, these are kinesthetic indications that yes, we are hitting the nail on the head. Many times when something really powerful is going to happen or there's going to be a shift, I feel a sweet taste which comes at the back of my neck, back of my throat, right? And I know that something is going to happen, right? So I become more aware. Start seeing things that, okay, I need to be more cautious. I need to be more aware of what is happening so that I can grab that opportunity which is coming into my life. So things like that, right? The guidance can come in many forms. You have to understand what is the form the guidance is coming to you in, and then capture it. Okay. That means awareness is the key to this entire game.
When one form of communication does not reach you or you become afraid of what is being conveyed, the guides will simply shift to another form or approach the subject from another angle. For example, if I fear that the words that are coming through have a certain meaning, or if someone has asked a particularly controversial question, I will run away from that place of inner peace and harmony and no longer be able to hear what the guide is saying. I then have to take a minute or two to find that place inside again. If I cannot pick up the words again, the guides will probably send me a general concept that I then try to explain in my own words. This slowly merges with their words again, and I am back online. If that doesn't work, they will come in with a picture that I will begin describing and allow the client to help find the meaning of the symbolic picture for himself.
So again, guidance can come in many ways, right? Many times also what happens is that you are not hitting the nail on the head and the communication is not clear. So that time, at times like that, you can make attempts to observe it and go at it from other angles. But the fact is that if the communication link is not proper, you should back off. That is what I do. And I'll tell the client very clearly that the guidance is not coming clearly. We need to do this some other time. But having said that, many times the guidance will come in the form of pictures. Sometimes it will come as a taste, sometimes as a smell, as a vibration, as a feeling, right? And then you have to develop your own language. So in all the programs, we are constantly telling you that when we are going into the higher states of consciousness, we need to develop our own language of communication. And everyone's language will be unique, because what may mean X to me may mean Y to someone else, right? So we need to develop our own language of communication to get these downloads.
My internal experiences of verbal channeling is as follows. I sit in a cross-legged position, palms down on my thighs. First, I center myself. To me, this means kinesthetically anchoring in my body.
Now, this is very important, right? Today, how are we living here? How are we experiencing all these things? It is all happening because of the body. So the body is actually our biggest tool, right? When we are saying that we go out of body or we are going into expanded states of consciousness, the vehicle of the body is very much there. It is the base, it is the foundation from which we are doing things. So it is very important to be aware of your physical body, to hear the messages that the body is saying, what are the reactions the body is making. And let me tell you, the body is extremely sensitive. It knows stuff before it happens. And the sensitivity of the level of the body is so high that a small fluctuation will it will make adjustments in the body. So when you start sensing, are you feeling comfortable, not comfortable, focusing on your breath, seeing how dry or wet your mouth is, feeling the tension in your muscles, etc., you can actually start discerning a lot of things just by paying attention to the body. So the first thing in getting into this stuff is to be aware of your body, being grounded, being centered in your body system. That centering of the body is extremely important for any kind of intuitive activity. When you look at somatic intelligence, that we are just coming to the end of this batch 2, her main focus is that you need to be grounded in the body first. Before any kind of healing also takes place, we need to be grounded in the body. So in the same way, when we are getting into intuition, we need to be grounded in our body for the download to start happening.
It feels as if I build a strong energetic foundation around my lower half. Once this foundation is set, I begin to lift my consciousness by kinesthetically feeling it raise and visually focus upward into the light.
So again, very clearly she said, right? First, he creates the foundation using the body and then starts to go into that expanded state of consciousness.
I also turn my palm upwards when I do this. At a certain point, when I am lifted, contact with the guide is made. Again, I feel it kinesthetically. I see the guide behind my right shoulder and I hear the first few words from that direction. When I and the guide are ready to begin, I lift my hands and hold fingertips together in front of my solar plexus or my heart. This balances my energy field and helps maintain a lifted state.
Okay, so moving of hands, etc. Again, it's a ritual, right? But what has been seen, this is something that we talk about in biogeometry, and we in biogeometry we use these mannequins, right? If you place the hands, you connect a mannequin to a particular person using a something of theirs attached to the thing and attached to the mannequin, right? And then you put the palms in a particular way at a level of a particular chakra, it will start to harmonize those chakras. So this is another way of actually becoming centered and creating centeredness within ourselves. So when we keep our hands with us like this, or we keep it like this at a particular chakric level, it starts to harmonize some of the chakras. That's what has been seen.
The rasped nasal breath also helps. At this point, I usually begin to channel verbally. At first, the words come from the right shoulder area. The more connected to the channeling process I become, the closer in the words are. The guide also appears to come closer. Soon there is no lag time between hearing and speaking the words, and the apparent direction they are coming from moves to above and inside my head. The guide also visually appears to fit over me like a glove. The guide begins to move my arms and hands in coordination with the conversation. He also uses my hands to balance my energy field and to run energy into my chakras while he is talking.
So
This keeps
this, one second. So this becomes important here, right? So again, everyone goes into guidance in their own way. In her way, she feels the guide around her right shoulder, and then the guidance comes and actually takes over her body, right? You can also feel that happening, but many people may not feel that happening. But you need to connect with the state of consciousness of what you're feeling, what is happening, right? When you're going into that state of consciousness, so that you can know that, okay, when it is happening, that I am in a state where I can be receptive to use or to be able to get downloads and to have intuitive abilities for that particular space and time. Okay, so now again, we have to develop our own ritual. We have to develop our own method of connecting. This, what she's saying here, is her method of connecting and the way that she does it.
this keeps the energy high and focused. My personality self seems to be floating off and above, listening and watching it all. At the same time, I feel merged with the guide as if I am the guide. As the guide, I feel much bigger than the personality me, Barbara.
So many times what also happens is that this guidance, these guides are also aspects of ourselves. So various aspects of ourselves are there. We can exist in multiple verses at the same time. So experience, a more experienced self of ourself may be coming in to guide us. There may be other guides and masters from our soul group, right? So what we need to do is that to understand what is the shift taking place. And that when you go into that stillness, there's an empty mind. And then whatever comes, you just speak it out, right? And that when you start speaking it out and you're hitting the nail on the head, you will find that, and you go into that state and say it, you will be amazed with the kind of accuracy and the kind of information that you can actually give to the other person about a particular scenario and what is actually happening in that scenario and what are the steps that that person needs to take, right, to be able to handle that particular scenario. So it's actually very amazing. You have to just start doing it and then accepting that you can do it. That's the first step, right? You have to understand that yes, everyone can do it. It's not restricted to one or two people, but you have to make that deeper connection with your guidance before you can do it.
At the end of the conversation, my experience is one of the guide lightly disconnecting and lifting off, while my consciousness sinks downwards into my body and my personality self. At this point, I am usually quite shy.
Yeah, so many times what will happen is that you don't know and you don't understand from where you said what, right? So it can at times become a little embarrassing.
The chakra senses. So far, I have mentioned only accessing through 4 of the 5 senses of sight, sound, feel, and smell. It is rare, but I suppose one could channel through taste also. In studying the accessing process, I have seen that each mode or sense is related to a chakra. That is, we access information through the sensing mechanism of each chakra. Figure
Right.
19.1.
Right. So what it's saying is that each of the chakras is also connected to a particular sense or taste, sound, etc., etc. So when we are working with it, it will work with the corresponding chakra. That list is there. We will see that list.
Figure 19.1 lists the 7 chakras and the sense that is active through each one. When I observe someone channeling, I am able to perceive which chakra they are using to get their information. That chakra is usually very active and has more energy running through it when they are channeling. Note that we do not normally distinguish between the kinesthetic sense, feeling, and intuition, but in my opinion, they are very different as described in figure 19.1. We also don't call loving a sense, but I believe it is. Just begin to pay more attention to what is going on when you are loving or sensing love. Loving is not in the same category as other feelings. Of course, loving is more than just a sense. It is also a way of being in synchronicity with other human beings.
So again, so when we look at the map of consciousness as per David Hawkins, right, we talk about love and above. So when we start operating above love, then that oneness, that unity consciousness, that feeling that, we need, we are looking out for everyone around us. We are equanimous in what we are talking about with everyone. We are balanced within ourselves. That is what happens when we start operating above 500 in that map of consciousness. So this is what she's talking about, right? It's a sense, it's a emotion, but it's also more a sense. It's a state of being that we start getting into when we operate out of love.
The kind of information you receive through each of your chakras is different. The first chakra yields kinesthetic information, feelings in your body like a feeling of balance or imbalance, shivers running up and down the spine, physical pain in a body part, a feeling of illness or health, safety or danger.
So again, when we are going into the workshops, we'll always tell you that be aware of any of the feelings, vibrations, sensations, release, pain, shivering, movement of the arms or limbs. You feel a movement somewhere. So again, what she's doing is she is equating it with each of the chakras. So if there's any kind of a movement or a shiver, it would relate to the first chakra, I guess.
This information can be utilized by the healer to know what state the patient is in. If the healer feels illness and she knows it is not hers, she will know that it is the patient's. She may feel the patient's leg pain in her own leg or in her hand when she places it on the patient's leg.
Okay, so this is something that happens in the sense that when you're twinning with your client, when you're tuning with your patient, what is happening in the client will be reflected in your body sense because you are connecting with the client. It used to happen to me when I used to go for energy field rectifications to people's houses. I used to get pains and aches and pains in various parts of my body. And that used to immediately indicate to me where the problem in the house lies. But what started happening was that that pain used to last for a long time. So then I created a switch for myself and I can switch it on and off when I want to, right? So again, it is the same thing that she's talking about over here, that you can feel the pain, you can feel where the issue is in the patient's body system by experiencing it in your body when you are making an energetic connection with the client or the patient.
All this kind of information comes through the first chakra and can be used very successfully if the healer clears herself so that her own body is a sounding board.
So one second. So basically, again, what is she saying? That the healer has to be in a state of equanimity, in a state of emptiness, right? If the healer starts to bring their life issues into the healing, then that will get transferred to the patient. That's why it's very important. And we mentioned this before. What is the consciousness level that the healer is operating at becomes very important for the client to discern before taking healing from any person, right? Otherwise, a feedback can start to happen. Also, when a healer is operating from that inner emptiness, and what she says is acting like a soundboard, that is a reflective surface as to whatever is in the patient gets reflected in the client, in the healer's body. The healer can also start getting affected because prejudice, right? Ego can start playing its game. And then it becomes a huge problem. Yes, Kokil?
So, Bhaiya, when you're talking about creating that switch, so
Yes.
is it like you give a command to your body, or what is it like?
No, no. So, I mean, in the sense that you set an intent within yourself
Mhm.
that, okay, now I'm not going to feel the aches and pains in my body and I'm not going to carry it back with me.
Okay, okay.
Right? If you are like when we went in the gateway voyage, for example, when we are going into focus 21, Robert Monroe clearly says in the track that do not bring any of the emotional feelings that you experience over there back into this physical into the C1 state of consciousness. If it is not joyful, leave it over there. You understand? So now today when I go into someone's house or I'm healing someone, I can actually feel what is happening in their body, in my body. But then straight after the session, I'm empty when I'm doing the session, or I'm going into someone's house. I'm just operating as a visualizer. I'm just operating as what do you call a witness, right? If
Right.
I allow my ego to get into the picture, then I am doing it. But if I'm going in as a witness just to explain to the client what is happening in their house or what is happening in their body system, then I don't get affected because I'm operating from witness consciousness. And as soon as you go into witness consciousness, you start getting into stillness consciousness. So you start stilling your mind. Because if a lot of junk is going on in your head, then you're not going to be able to act as a witness. So stilling the mind is very important for us to get into that state of witnessing what is happening in the client's body or in the client's premises.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
She can distinguish between her body and the body of her patient. If the healer feels pain in her leg, she had better be aware of whether it was there before the patient arrived or if she is picking it up from the patient. Of course, there are disadvantages to this method of accessing information. One tires very fast of feeling everyone else's physical pain.
So again, this is very important, right? If you start feeling everyone's pain, then it can take a toll on your body system. But again, as you start doing it and you build your resilience, you build your ability to manage it, automatically you can start managing it and it stops affecting you. Okay, I know this because I'm doing it all the time. And many times what used to happen previously when we were doing it, I used to go flat. And there was a time when I was flat for 6 months. I overdid it so much that my body system could not take it anymore. So creating that inner resilience and that balance becomes very important when we are looking at doing these things, right? And you need to clear yourself quickly or actually not let it affect you at all. That is the most important way of handling this.
The second chakra yields information about emotional states, either of the healer or others. Again, the healer must use her own energy field to distinguish between her own emotional feelings and those of the patient. This can be learned with practice and a lot of good feedback.
So again, the same thing is valid, right? In the first case, you were getting a feeling of pain in the body system. Now this is a feeling of emotions. Like you'll sense, right, that this person is very sad or is hurting because of this kind of an argument with someone. Or this is the reason why emotionally the person is feeling very alone, which is why because of that the person is doing something. So again, accessing that becomes important. Now I've been doing all these things, but I never distinguished it according to the chakras. So this is a good learning for me also, that I can also understand that, okay, where am I operating from in each of these cases? And maybe we can start testing for it also. So although I read this book twice, long time back, but today it's making much more sense to me.
For example, the healer will sense what the client feels emotionally about the pain in her leg. The client may be angry about being sick, or she may be very fearful about it. She may be afraid that the leg pain really indicates a very serious condition. It is important to use this information because all illness is accompanied by emotional feelings that need to be cleared in some way.
So yeah, so the body, every illness that we have is the result of, will have an emotional content in it. And when we start clearing the emotion behind that particular hurt, the hurt also starts to dissolve, right? So the body is physically manifesting certain emotional conditions that we are going through.
The third chakra gives vague information such as when someone says, I thought you were going to call and you did, or my intuition tells me that I shouldn't fly on that plane today. Something might happen. If one is seeing beings from another level and the third chakra is being used to sense them, the person will get a vague sense of another presence in the room, its location, its general shape and size, and its intent. That is, friendly or unfriendly. The first chakra would reveal kinesthetic information about the presence, and the second would reveal the feelings of the being. In the example of the leg pain, the third chakra will give a vague idea of what deeper meaning the pain has in the client's life, and also some intuition of its causes.
So again, we talk about gut feel, right? I felt it in my gut. So where is the gut? It's near the solar plexus, right? So basically we are connecting through the solar plexus to the brain that is there in the gut, that intelligence which is there in the gut to garner information about a particular situation or a person or a particular place.
The fourth chakra yields feelings of love that reaches out beyond the self, mate, or family to humanity and life itself. When you are sensing with the fourth chakra, you can sense another's love and the quality and quantity of that love, whether they be in a physical body or not. One can feel the collective love of humanity. In the example of leg pain, one would feel love for the client and the client's quality of love for herself. The chakra also gives a sense of connectedness to all creatures who have ever had leg pain.
So again, when you operate from the fourth chakra, you're connecting with love, right? When you're connecting from that state of consciousness, then the judgment drops. The witness consciousness automatically will start coming in, and you will have compassion. You will operate from gentleness and compassion to understand where that person is coming from and what does it mean to that particular person.
The fifth chakra gives the sense of sounds, music, words, smells, and taste. This information can be very specific depending upon which level of the auric field it is coming from. For example, for the client with the pain in her leg, the healer may very well receive a description of the problem in physiological terms like it is phlebitis or it is a strained muscle due to a new pair of shoes that cause the leg to twist when the client is walking. The fifth chakra may also reveal a sound that would be very effective to use on the leg for healing it.
So again, fifth chakra is the throat chakra related to communication. And again, we have seen that resonant tuning works very well. So we can actually, when we get into this intuitive state, we can get a feel that, okay, this is a sound that will help in relieving this pain, or it will help in getting rid of this pain, or it will help in, balancing the body system so that whatever is out of balance can start getting balance. We can also get taste, we can get smells, we can get sounds that, okay, you chant this mantra or you do this or you do that, and that it will work for you. So many times when we are doing a healing or we are going to people's houses, we will tell them, okay, smell camphor or wipe your house with camphor or drop 3 drops of oil over here or things like that. So you get a sense that, okay, this will allow the healing to take place, or the shift to create balance will take place. And now I understand that we are operating when we do this from the fifth chakra.
The sixth chakra reveals pictures. These pictures can be either symbolic with a very personal meaning for the patient or literal. Literal pictures are pictures of events that have happened, are happening, or will happen. They are also images of things that exist. When I say images, I don't necessarily mean you see them as you do with your eyes, but you do receive a picture in your mind that gives a strong enough impression and allows you to observe it in a way that might allow you to draw or reproduce it if you wished.
So this is again very important. Many times, when you're sitting with a client, it's like a movie will play in your mind, right? And you can actually see it, right? And you just have to explain it to the client. I'll share a very stark incident which happened, when these things just started happening with me. A cousin of mine was getting married and some of our friends were there, and we started talking. So, so that time I used to hold the hand of a person to get the signal. And when I saw the signal of this girl, I actually saw a scene where she was associated with a person, and I saw her getting out of a white car, getting into an auto rickshaw, and running and moving away from that person chasing her and pulling her out of the auto rickshaw again. Right. When I narrated that scene to her, it really hit her, because I had a strong feeling that that person was not correct for her, but she was associating with him because of whatever reason, right? Ultimately, after a few years, it actually turned out that she had actually left that person abused her in whatever way, and it clicked out, right? So many times, and this happens a lot, you'll just see a picture in front of you, and you know that, okay, this is what is going to happen, or this is what had happened. You'll get past images as well as future images when you go into these states of consciousness again. Okay.
For example, in the case of the leg pain, The sixth chakra might reveal an image of the blood clot associated with phlebitis, or the healer might simply see the strained muscle, depending on what the cause of the pain is. The image could appear on a screen in the healer's mind as on TV, or it could appear to be coming directly from inside the leg as it would to normal sight. The sixth chakra could also reveal a symbolic picture that would have some meaning for the client, but most likely not much meaning for the healer. The symbolic picture would appear on the healer's mind screen. The sixth chakra could also reveal in picture form the patient's past experience that is connected to the leg pain, such as an image of a child falling off a tricycle and bumping her right leg right where the pain is now, say 20 years later. This kind of direct access is rather like watching a movie.
So it is absolutely like as if a video is playing in front of your mind's eye. It is exactly like that.
Note that I have been referring to receiving pictures. Perceiving means receiving. Perception is receiving what is already there, either in symbolic form or in literal form. Visualizing is an entirely different function. The process of visualization is actively creating. In visualization, you create a picture in your mind and give it energy. If you continue to hold it clearly in your mind and give it energy, you can eventually create it in your life.
So again, perceiving means you're actually perceiving what is existing or what is due to manifest also, right? But when you want to change something, you can change it with intent. And that is where visualization starts to come into it. All sports people who are doing very well use this process of visualizing so that they can create in the physical matter reality what they are visualizing. So this is something that we use when we are going into higher states of consciousness and we do the patterning exercises. We are creating a pattern and throwing it out into that expanded state and then trusting that the universe will automatically manifest it if it is in tune with what we are wanting to manifest. Okay.
You have thus given it form and substance. The clearer the image and the more emotional energy you project into it, the more you will be able to create it in your life.
So what does this mean, right? When you're creating the image, you have to involve all your senses into that image. The more sensory perception you involve in the image means that the image becomes more and more real so that it can start to manifest, right? That is what we are also saying when we are when we are creating the patterns in the patterning exercises that we do. We always tell people that put all the sensory perception and the emotions into the creation of the pattern so that it can start to manifest very easily.
The seventh chakra reveals information in the form of a whole concept. This information goes beyond the limited human senses and communication system. The channeler, after absorbing and deeply understanding the concept, must then use her own words to describe what she understands. Many times, as I start to explain something in my own words, Heon will come in from the fifth and explain it in much clearer words than I can. The whole concept gives a complete sense of knowing. It is the experience of being one with the concept. In our leg pain example, the seventh chakra will reveal the whole life situation that the leg pain is associated with.
So this also happens a lot, you get a total gestalt, right? You get a total overview of what is happening, and then you need to explain it to the client in your words. You need to explain it in a way that the client will start to understand what the whole picture is all about and what are the steps required to start taking steps towards the direction in which the client will feel results in the way that they want to perceive it, number one, or that it will lead them to getting into the flow. So then the things will happen on their own. It's really wonderful when you get into these states, you can actually discern so much of information about people. It is not funny. But again, the main thing is the stilling of the mind. And this is something that I learned when I was doing energy field rectification for people's houses, etc. That if the people were not changing the way that they were doing things, right, the same result would come. Now, when we get into these perceptions, we can actually guide the people as to what they need to do to create and hold or keep the feeling or that paradigm or that particular path grounded in their lives. If you can get into the stillness consciousness, and you can really create guidance for people. I think we can stop here.